All right, so this is going to be the second episode of the series, and we're going to talk about what's called stimming. Now, stimming is where a person goes through a repetitive action in order to cope with who they are, being overstimulated, maybe, understimulated. Basically, it's a repetitive task to find a sense of equilibrium. And there's actually not too many examples in the animal kingdom that do this. But stims can also be texture. For example, if somebody is stressed, one of your employees is stressed, and they decide to bring a stuffed animal to like their workspace cubicle, and you find them over there just kind of rubbing it and whatnot. Number one, don't interrupt them unless they come to you, if or they've been doing it for a prolonged period of time, meaning they've been doing it for more than 5 minutes. The reason being is sometimes texture brings a sense of alleviation. Certain songs will do the same thing. On very monotonous tasks, I would stim because I was understimulated, and so I would listen to Five Finger Death Punch. True story. Usually followed by Glee. Again, true story. Which leads me into a different type of stimming as well. So you can have auditory stimming, you can have textural stimming, so touch sensation. Then you can also have complexity stimming. Okay, Five Finger Death Punch is a relatively complex heavy metal group, and I like the uniqueness of the dynamics. I like the lilts. I like the drops. And the reason I listen to Glee is because I can listen to a choir and pick out every single voice. That's how sharp the autistic hearing is. And I'm going to go into that in another one, where if somebody says, "Do you hear that?" They say it's a high pitched noise. Very likely they're hearing an electrical device. But we're going to get into that. That is an actual thing that happens. But a lot of people that are feeling understimulated will seek complexity. So it could be just a Rubik's Cube. That's a decent amount of just like mindless. And for some people that are familiar with Rubik's Cubes or puzzles or like just fun puzzle like games that require a certain level of complexity, but not a huge amount. Meaning once you get used to it, you get used to it. And it's a little bit, stims are a little bit different than us breaking down from the day. For example, I'll do Fortnite, which is a complex game if you play it the way that I play it, because I'm an old school first person shooter gamer from my childhood. So I've got a good 20 years under my 25 years under my belt now. So yeah, I beat these youngsters with experience, but that's also kind of my go-to for breaking down. But when I'm in the workplace, if I need to be more stimulated, I will listen to Five Finger Death Punch, Glee, some choir, some chant, something very, very complex. But the opposite is also true if somebody is feeling overwhelmed with stimuli or information. And often you'll find that the person will reject more stimuli of the type that overwhelmed them. So if the person that's employed under your care will sometimes get stressed and touch a stuffed animal, just rub the softness of it, right? If they don't do that, then that usually means something rubbed them the wrong way, literally. And hopefully, we're not going to go into, it's more along the lines of, for example, this right here is a latte texture. And I happen to be a part-time barista because I think it's fun and it's free coffee. But problem solving aside, this is a latte-like texture because I prefer that over the more watery coffee, like drip coffee. And there are some people that probably wouldn't be able to stand that and would be like, no, I only want drip. I only want super thin liquids, not thicker ones. And I'm going to a very light extreme on this one, just to give you an example that texture does matter. It could be touch texture. It could be environmental texture. Sometimes we don't want to be touched at all because of whatever's going on. And we will purposely try to avoid somebody, and then we get stuck in the elevator, shoulder to shoulder with people. That can be rough. Claustrophobic closed-in spaces, taking in all of the extra stimuli of whatever smells are in the air, on top of just being crowded and having no escape for like a minute. Because for some, that minute can seem like a very long time. And I know this seems a little bit far out, but on the same token, think about it when you're in the zone, okay? Imagine us always being in the zone. Meaning when you're in the zone, you're playing your favorite game. It could be football, that shot that you shot that just never lived down. Like when you're in that zone, you feel everybody around you, just like bobbing and weaving for whatever game or activity it is. You're just like super hyper focused. That's us on a very regular basis. That is us on a normal day. And we get used to it. Like over the years, we get used to it. But when you're in the zone, try staying in the zone for an hour or 2 hours. You start to get a little bit burnt out because you're taking in all of this information because you're into it. Like we're into life, we're into whatever activity we're doing. And sometimes the hyperfocus is fun, but when it becomes overwhelming, we may need to do just a basic stim, which could be rocking back and forth. It could be something like putting a noise out there like ding, 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 and just looking around, not making any sort of eye contact. It's to decrease the amount of stimuli that we receive. And this can be a cumulative thing, meaning we're getting overstimulated throughout several days or weeks. And then we just need to stim because it's back to back every day type thing. So, and think of it as far as being overstimulated for a long period of time. I don't want to relate it to PTSD because I know many combat veterans, but in a way, your body will want to start shutting down. It's the fatigue that has been described after prolonged periods of heightened activity. So, as mentioned in the previous video, ask them how you can accommodate them, and have a nice, friendly conversation to where you can question, or you can give them a space to open up about who and what they are and what small accommodations they need. Stimming is I've never met somebody with ADHD or autism that didn't need to stim. They may not do it in the workplace, or they may do it in the workplace when they think nobody's looking, but there is a need to stim because sometimes things are too much or too little. And your job is to be receptive to that. So I'm giving you a couple different examples. If you see repetitive behavior, or if you see them throwing on headphones are often to hyperstimulate if you're listening to bands like Five Finger Death Punch or choirs or concerts. But sometimes, especially autistic individuals will put really, really nice headphones on and they won't be plugged into anything. And that's to decrease our overstimulation. So that seems like a lot of work to accommodate for, right? Not really. We're just going to do our own thing. And if you let us do it, you will find extraordinarily productive individuals. When we feel safe in an environment, we run with the task. And again, I know many, many autistic and ADHD individuals, and the majority of us are overperformers. So we'll leave this lesson where it's at. Just remember to ask them about their accommodations. And if you mention masking during that conversation and say, hey, I understand if you need to mask, just let us know. And any accommodations that we have to do, we want you happy because happy means productive. And if you explain it just like that, they won't feel offended. I have not run into anybody that would feel offended by that. In fact, they might actually feel elated because now they know your motivation. You want them to do their best. You want to provide an environment for them to do their best. And you're willing to put up with whatever stims that they've got to do just to rebalance themselves and then jump right back into the fray. I think that's a great compromise, don't you? Anyway, make sure to like and subscribe. There's going to be more videos coming up on how to manage your neurodivergent workforce, ADHD and autistic specifically, but we're going to go into different disabilities too. So meantime, again, like and subscribe, and I will catch you guys around. And gals, I don't want to be exclusive.